Hello again, I'm Nick in the States, and today we're going to put a Bigsby with a Vibramate on a Les Paul style guitar. An import Les Paul style guitar, and in fact this is an Agile AL2000, but you can pretty much do this on any true to form Les Paul that has a couple key measurements the same. So Epiphone Les Pauls, even some of the ESP LTD ones, I think even a Dean Cadillac, but you want to measure the distance from the end of the tailpiece to the end of the guitar on an Epiphone Les Paul, and as long as it's the same or even slightly longer, half inch, quarter or half inch I think, a Vibramate with a Bigsby American B7 will work. And that's this guy here. How do you know you have a B7? It doesn't say licensed underneath it. It's got a big gap like this. You'll see the patent number on it, everything like that. It's generally light because it's aluminum. And this is a B7. This is what's going to be the right one for you to use for this application. The problem with the other ones is these screw holes aren't going to line up to your Vibramate. Now what's a Vibramate? A Vibramate is a magical piece of thing that means I don't have to use any of these on this guitar to get a Bigsby. And in fact it means that I can put it back to normal stock when I'm all said and done playing with my whammy bar, because no holes have been left in there. And you'll see how it works, but really the light way is I cut the strings, pop the tailpiece, I screw this in place of the tailpiece, and then I actually can mount this with the mounting screws in the Bigsby. We'll screw right into the same holes in this guy so they don't go in the top of the guitar. Likewise, I pull off the strap pin, I screw it in through this hole, mount it on there, and then everything works there wonderfully. I bought this with the Vibramate, exactly as it sits here, with the Vibramate's little this little pad screws into the heels. It's an adapter to go here. I got a steal on this on eBay for 85 bucks. The Bigsby alone, had it come with all of its stuff, meaning all of its mounting screws and whatnot, would have been about 110 bucks or so. So I got a steal because it was missing some things. What it was missing is there's some bolts that come with a Vibramate that screws in here. They look remarkably like this. I happen to have some because every Vibramate comes with both sets of bolts, one for a domestic, a USA Gibson, and one for an import like this that's metric. So I happen to have two left over, and then it was also missing these two screws, which I just happen to also have. So, anywho, I saved a bunch of money. I got this. Towner from Towner USA makes a DTB. Nope, that's a tension bar. They also make a hinge plate adapter. In lieu of this, they've got a better way of a thing that slips in here and your jack pin screws into it, which actually makes it easier to put a strap on over it. I said strap on. So they have that, so it's a good thing to look into, and I think it's a better hinge plate system than the Vibramate one. And they're like 10 bucks or something, so you can find them on eBay. Anywho, I digress. Let's get started. Step one, let's go cut some strings. Ta-da! Alright, now I can just unscrew these by my fingers. Like so. You'll see that these two screws, if I've done everything correctly, screw right in, which they do. So the nice thing about this whole process is all you really need is a screwdriver. So I found my Vibramate, left hand side goes down, right hand side goes up. Screw this right in here. These things are just, they're great. I've got them in a few of my my Gibsons, or a couple of my Gibsons I guess at this point. I'm special. So there you go. And now you'll see that when I put this on like this, the screw holes line right up, and it's going to mount there kind of cool like. Next step. Let's get this bad boy off. Now what you want to do, something to keep in mind here anyway, is that some guitars, some Agiles that I've owned, don't put this bolt hole in the dead center location, which means if you put a Vibramate on it, it will be crooked. When I did my Extreme video, I used this as my guide, and lo and behold, it was crooked, but it still worked fine. And I'm not biggest care of aesthetic on that particular guitar, so it's okay. I think they eyeball these when they do them in the factory, which meant this guy had some help because you've got a book match top here. It's nice in the center. Everybody moves on all happy like. So now, if you take a look here, what I'm going to do first is actually screw in these two screws and lock her into place. If you ever lose these two screws, a good thing to know is that the thread pattern on them is the same exact thread pattern, and they're roughly the same size as a Fender pickguard screw. So if you happen to lose one, or say buy one on eBay that didn't come with them, it's a good thing to do. Now I'm going to back this up a little, and you can see the end cap here. So what I'm going to do is look and see if I can get that lined up nice and straight, which I could. It's going to take a little bit of down tension, which is fine. I'm just going to screw this bad boy right back in the hole that she came out of. Like such. And right about there, she's good. And here you can see kind of how she sits there. It's kind of not the best way to sit, and that's why that Towner hinge plate adapter system works better. Likewise, you can see there's some lean there. That's actually to be sort of expected, because an import bridge is slightly farther back than a USA bridge. Let's see, here you go. You can see it kind of leans. So it overshoots the mark by a little bit. I've seen this, I had Epiphone Les Paul Custom, same situation, and it's really because this distance from here to here is slightly different on an import than on a domestic USA Les Paul. So on a Les Paul it's a little bit in further. On this one it kind of hangs over by a little bit on the end. Another alternative is Towner sells it, but somebody calls it's called a V block, and it's a extension block that goes on the end of the guitar that then the Bigsby would screw into directly the block. I have one somewhere, Lord knows where, but it'd give you a better match up there, still with no screws required. So anyway, but in the end, if you look, like there, well, let's put this thing up a little bit, you can see that she's pretty. Look at that top too, just a great top. But that's how she looks with a Bigsby on it. So I'll get her strung up, I'll tune her up, that kind of stuff. What I'm going to do after this is do a comparison video between this with a Vibramate and a Bigsby and the X-Trem that I put on my other AL2000 and kind of give you some feedback there. But if you look at this guy, in the amount of time, it's a pretty top too, isn't it? In the amount of time that it took me to cut the strings, in less time by far than it would take me to string it back up, and with no drilling, I put a USA Bigsby on this guy. I think so common street prices for a new Vibramate, something like $50, and common street prices for a new Bigsby B7 is like $125. So like $175, give or take, is what it costs you to buy new parts. By being crafty, thrifty, and hunting, I got these added to this guitar for $85, right? Which is great because the entire guitar cost me $180. So now for about $265, which is the price of a new Agile AL2000, I've got a beautiful Agile with an American Bigsby on it that I can take off at any time and put on a real Les Paul or whatever else when I have the need there. So next steps, I'm going to string this guy up. We're going to do a comparison video between this AL2000 and my AL2000 with the Guitar Fetish GFS X-Trem, and kind of give you some, it'll take a couple weeks to play them both, give you some feedback on, what I like about the two, the differences, and whatnot. So, anywho, I'm rambling. It's Labor Day. Party on, everyone. Enjoy yourselves. Look at how the blue makes my eyes pop. I'm Nick in the States, folks, and obviously I've got issues. Take care.